Scott Surville, running for Virginia State Senate, 36th District. It's great to be here. First of all, I just want to thank the South County Federation for what you all do for our area, especially your land use committee. You all provide a lot of useful input to our supervisor. That kind of community input helps get things done. And I grew up in this area. I'm a Fairfax County native. I went to West Potomac High School. My dad went to Mount Vernon. I remember when Lorton didn't have too many people down here. And it's incredible to see the change that's gone on down here. And again, honor you for all you do. The 36th District includes parts of South County. It has basically Mason Neck, the Fairfax, Belvoir Woods, Raceway Farms, Mount Airy, and it has, that's about it. Basically goes along the east side of Route 1, a little bit of Telegraph Road. I'm currently a member of the House of Delegates, the 44th District. 44th District is everything between Fort Belvoir, Alexandria, the Potomac River, and Telegraph Road pretty much. I've represented that area for the last 6 years. About 8 months ago, I was elected House Democratic Caucus Chairman by the other members of my caucus to lead my caucus in the Virginia House of Delegates. I'm proud of the work that I've done. Among other things, I helped pass the ban, actually with Senator Barker, to ban texting while driving to make that a primary offense. We actually did some bipartisan cooperation to make that happen, to get through some committees that Senator Barker had some problems getting it through. The big thing I did, which I think is important for this area, is the Route 1 multimodal study. Senator Poehler and I partnered together to get $2 million to come up with a roadmap, a two-year plan that gave us a roadmap on what the Route 1 corridor should look like for the next 30 years. Pursuant to that roadmap, we just secured $16 million to start funding the development of a new bus rapid transit system that's going to run from the Huntington Metro to the Woodbridge VRE and bring the Metro further down Route 1 in about 15 years. It's exciting stuff. It's exciting for this area. It's going to be a big boon to everybody in the Route 1 corridor, including y'all down here, and I'm very proud of that. I look forward to your questions. There's a lot to talk about, and I appreciate your support on November the 3rd. Thank you.
And then we will just roll from left to right as before. What is the biggest difference between your priorities and your opponents? Why you?
Economic development. That's a big difference between Delegate Surville and myself. His economic plan is predatory lending. Let's get rid of predatory lenders. 5 years in office, and let's get rid of predatory lenders. He was in office when they came here, and he says, hey, they're charging us too much interest. He could have solved this by now. Could have solved it in a nonpartisan manner. Yet he's made it a platform. And the press asked me, where do I sit on predatory lending? I'll tell you where I sit on predatory lending. It's important. They're a business like everybody else. You zone them out, you take care of it that way. Let's talk about economic development and what it means to bring jobs to this area. Let's talk about structured growth. As a mayor, I've held an economic summit for our business owners, and we've made them part of the solution, not part of the problem. We've worked hand in hand. We've lowered our B-poll taxes. We've lowered our fee schedule. We've lowered our property taxes, and we've returned that money back to the businesses. And we're growing. Economic development, when you're a senator, means that you're working with the Chamber of Commerce, hand in hand, every step of the way. I haven't been endorsed by the Chamber of Commerce, but we've made our rounds together. I know why I'm not getting endorsed. I don't have a legislative record. The question is to ask my opponent why he's not getting endorsed. 5 years in office, and the highest grade he got from Richmond, the Richmond Chamber of Commerce, the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, is a C. I don't need SOLs. And I don't need new math. When your highest grade's a C, that means everything else is a D and a C minus. So let's talk not about predatory lending. So when the paper sends me a questionnaire and says, what do I think of predatory lending? That tells me they're listening to one candidate. There's two candidates in this race. I have a proven track record of economic development as mayor. Ask me what we can do to bring jobs, structured growth, work with the Chamber of Commerce, work with the businesses, and work with the community to bring economic development along Route 1. Don't ask me about predatory lending. Thank you.
What my opponent here said, I've been working on economic development plenty since I was elected. The best thing we can do for this corridor, the best thing we can do for this area, in terms of bringing jobs and revitalization, economic development, is to fix Route 1. That is the number one thing, is invest in Route 1, bring transit down Route 1, bring bus rapid transit, and bring the Metro. You bring Metro down Route 1, it will transform this area. It will transform shopping. It will transform restaurants. It will transform housing. It will bring us jobs closer to where we live so we don't have long commutes. And that's been my number one priority since I was elected. I'm happy to say I have been fighting predatory lending because predatory lending is a scourge on this area. It gives our area a bad name. It gives us a bad reputation. It makes it so businesses do not want to come here when they see that we have 8 predatory lenders between Fort Belvoir and Alexandria. There's actually 21 between Alexandria and Quantico. It's crazy. 264% interest rates predates on people. They are predators. They ought to be illegal. And Jerry has been trying to do everything he can to get rid of them, but Richmond hasn't given him the authority to do anything about it, which is what I've been working on. So in any event, I've been trying to work with our local government to make that happen. But I'll tell you, the best thing we can do in the short term, which is the biggest difference between me and my opponent to bring jobs, is expand Medicaid, folks. The federal government is dangling $2 billion in front of us, and we're saying no because it has Obama's name on it. All right? That $2 billion would free up $180 million of your state taxpayer dollars. If we take that money, $180 million would be freed so we can invest it in our schools to help solve our school problem. It would also create 30,000 jobs in this area. Almost 400 jobs right here in this area. You go to the top of Beacon Hill. Up on Beacon Hill, there is a 5-story building that was just purchased by Alexander Neighborhood Health Services, waiting to serve patients. They're waiting to fill it up with nurses, employees, and doctors. And the reason they can't fill it is because we haven't expanded Medicaid and taken that money that we are paying our taxes to the rest of the country instead of bringing it back here, create jobs, and give people certainty and health care in life. That's some of the things we can do to create economic development. And yeah, we do have a difference about how we get it done. Cutting taxes is so 90s. There's a new way to do it, and I think we need to do it the new way. We need to invest in people and invest in this area in infrastructure.
Over here. Last week there were not one but 2 incidents that resulted in the deaths on college campuses, the 46th and 47th school shooting this year. We all still remember Virginia Tech. It seems that it's never personal until it happens to you. The Washington Post recently noted that there are now more guns than people in the United States. Given the Commonwealth's relatively permissive gun laws, do you propose to make any recommendations for reasonable gun measures such as mandatory background checks for all gun sales? Please do not reply with a discussion about mental illness and guns unless you're proposing massive increases in mental health care, waiver of some privacy rights and restrictions for doctors, and requirements for mandatory reporting of mental illness to be used in conjunction with background checks.
They're on a lot of people's minds right now because of all the news that's going on. We actually got informed the other night, we had 2 different questions about firearm violence in this country, and there's a reason. It's because there's a mass shooting in this country almost every other day because firearm violence is out of control in the United States of America. And I'm happy to say this is a difference between me and my opponent. It's a clear difference. The NRA gave me an F. The NRA gave my opponent an A. There is a big difference. Now, I'll tell you about the NRA. It's interesting because when you go through their questionnaire, I filled it out every single time. I haven't hidden my position on anything. I filled it out every single time, knowing I was probably going to get an F. But I actually answered about half their question correctly from their point of view. But they gave me an F because there's only 2 or 3 issues they really care about. When I first got elected, it was because they wanted you to be able to carry a gun into a bar where alcohol is being sold. That was their one issue. You didn't answer it right, you got an F. This year, they want to expand concealed weapon permits. They want to make it really easy to carry a gun anywhere you want to. I oppose that. I'm sorry, I don't think that's right. I think guns are dangerous. I think there's places there shouldn't be. There's places people should be able to go where they know not everybody's carrying a gun or doesn't have a gun. I don't have a problem with people who hunt. Hunting is a way of life. It's in our Constitution. Virginia, we actually have a constitutional right to hunt and fish. My granddaddy was a hunter. My family, I'm a 12th generation Virginian. I think hunting is a long Virginian tradition. I don't have any problem with people that want to hunt. But I do have a problem with people like John Muhammad and Malvo that want to hunt human beings. I think that is wrong. And I have vivid memories of standing around in center field trying to play softball about 12 years ago where I had to dance around in center field because I was afraid I was going to get shot because there were some guys walking around with an AR-15 taking shots at people all around Northern Virginia while we were trying to pump gas or go to the restaurants and otherwise. We need to stop people like that. We need to stop them with universal background checks for everybody. It's supported by 85% of the public. Another thing the NRA doesn't like, by the way, but we need to have universal background checks. Whether you buy a gun on eBay or at a gun show, licensed, unlicensed gun seller, from a family member, you ought to have to go through a background check to buy a weapon. We need to have limits on magazines. Nobody needs to have 15 bullets in a handgun. The only point of having that is to kill a lot of people. So I support some common sense measures like that, and I think that's the direction we need to head.
I was a Marine for 25 years. I know about guns. In the civilian world, we call them guns. We don't call them firearms. So I'm going to do some political correctness. They're called guns out here. In the military, it's a firearm. It's there It's there for a purpose. In the civilian world, it's a gun. I am a proud member of the NRA, and I do support Gun Owners of America. And I believe that proper training of guns is what it's all about. I agree with Delegate Albo. We want to talk about how to take care of the solution, then let's put everything on the table. Don't tie my hands. As mayor, I'll tell you, I fought a lot of issues that I didn't think we were going to win, and we were told we couldn't do it, and we've done it. But don't ever tell me, when I'm representing you, that I have conditions from which to talk about something. When I represent you, all the conditions are on the table. For the town of Dumfries, we took our police officers, and we're the only town in the state that has an elementary school where we put a school resource officer in our schools. And we did that after the Connecticut shoot. We're trying to teach our kids to respect police officers in the beginning, right at first grade. And what we've done too is we've provided protection. Today we see our kids run to the police officers. Now let's talk about how we can work together. I think it's kind of unfair to say we can't talk about mental illness and mental health when this is what it's all about. We've got restrictive laws on the books already. Let's enforce those laws. Let's work with our medical professionals. Bring them in the room, and let's talk about how we can identify what's happening, how we can identify the cases up front, how we can work with law enforcement, and together as a team, we can clean up this mess, and we can be proactive instead of reactive. That's what leading is all about. Everything's on the table, fair representation, and I represent you. Thank you.
Are the most pressing transportation issues that face the South County area, and how are you going to address them? We will start down here. What's that?
Sure, happy to. 2 minutes. So I knocked every single door on Mason Neck, about 1,100 of them, and I got to learn a whole lot about how people live in this part of the county. I met one gentleman who told me he lives out on River Drive, that he drives an hour and 15 minutes to Boston every day, one way. That's his commute. I met somebody that works at the embassy in Northwest DC, hour and a half, one way. It's because this part of the county does not have meaningful transit options. We have to get more transit further south in Northern Virginia. You get down to Prince William County, down to Dumfries, they got the worst commutes probably on the planet. With what they have to deal with if you're from Dumfries or Triangle, or if you live down in Stafford County, horrific commutes. So what I've been working on with George, with Delegate Albo, with Senator Puller, with our local government, with Supervisor Highland, Supervisor McKay, is getting more transit down here, creating the roadmap. Senator Puller and I did a $2 million study. I mentioned it earlier. It recommended that we build a 14-mile-long median dedicated bus rapid transit right down Route 1 to Fort Belvoir, which now employs more people in the United States Pentagon, by the way. 80,000 cars on-off base every day. We got to get transit into Fort Belvoir. We have to get the metro down Route 1. We also need to get the blue line. We need to get the blue line south. I think we need to get the blue line down to Woodbridge, get it down to Potomac Mills, get it down to Dumfries, get it down to Quantico. Because that's where we need to get more jobs down this way so that people aren't having to use cars and drive 1, 2, 3, 4 hours a day away from their families in the car to make a living. So that's what I think we need to do in terms of transportation. We've got the plan. We at least got the plan now for Route 1. We do not have the plan for the Blue Line. And that's going to be the first priority of business when we get to Richmond, is to start to develop a plan to bring Prince William and Fairfax and Stafford to the table to develop a plan for 95 transit, to get transit down south. That's what I think we need to do, both short, medium, and long term.
I'm from the town of Dumfries. Said it a couple times. I've make your commute. I work up in D.C. Started out consulting for Booz Allen, and now I consult for another company, and I consult with the Coast Guard. Buy C-130s, missionize them, put them on the flight line. So I've made the commute to Roslyn. I've made the commute to D.C., and I still do it every day. I've been on the VRE. I've slugged. I've drove individually, and I've been in the carpool. So I know transportation. Let's talk about communication, because that's what's going to fix transportation. We have 3 counties, Fairfax, Prince William County, Stafford. Not one solution fix them all. In fact, Stafford's not even considered Northern Virginia, so they don't participate in the NVTA. My opponent, his communication, here's how he communicates. He blasts someone in the paper first. He's done it to me during this campaign about debates, That's another subject. But let's talk about how he worked with Fairfax 5 years ago. Blasted them in the papers and said their transportation woes was Supervisor Bullova's and McKay's and your supervisor's problem. Went back and forth in the Post, finally took Senator Puller, set him down, and said, let's work together. I believe in working together from day one. The NVTA, I'm a member of the NVTA as a commissioner. I'm a member of the Irvin Crescent. We have our own transportation bill within the town of Dumfries. There's 9 governments, 9 forms of governments in Fairfax, Prince William County, and Stafford. 3 county board of supervisors, 3 towns, and 3 school boards. In order to get transportation where it needs to go, you're going to need a senator who's going to sit down with your elected representatives all the time, every 3 months minimum, and talk about transportation. Just because we're fixing Route 1 up here, you still got a bottleneck down south. We're going to have to work together. And I don't mean through the press. I mean walking into the room the old-fashioned way as a mayor, rolling up your sleeves and talking about viable solutions and not raising taxes to do it. Thank you.
And now on 95, and the experiences we see of continued backup in the non-hot lanes and hot lanes going up to $17 plus to ride on those lanes, giving them the nickname Lexus lanes. Why is VDOT now immediately jumping to make I-66 a toll road, and do you support that?
Public-private partnerships are the wave of the future. We have to accept that. It's not going to get any better than that. The federal government, they can't get along. They can't pass an annual budget. They can't pass a balanced budget, so I don't see too much money coming from the feds. So Richmond and our localities are stuck making agreements and making deals. I take 95. I'm in a carpool. I pick up slugs. There's a couple things that we can do better with those express lanes. When there's an accident in the main line, I think the express lanes should be open. The HOVs should be open. Why not open them up when you're turning a profit like they're turning right now? Open it up, get everybody to go through the express lanes until the accident's cleared, and then close it back up. How about some type of a program of reward? Your taxes, your property taxes are paid. They're paid for the last 3 years, 4 years. You get your little $35 Easy Pass free. $35. I've knocked on these doors. I've been up and down this district. And there's some people that don't want to pay $35 just to get the pass. It's principle. They pay their taxes, reward them. I think they understand that if there's 3 people in the carpool, they're good to go, and it's free. But it's the $35. I'm paying for it. I'd much rather sit in traffic. Well, some people are like that. But we need to assist that. Now, 66 has been living out, they've been living out in the far west, the Wild West, and they've gotten away with 1 lane, 2 people for a long time. So now Progress is coming on board. They don't like it. And they're talking. They're talking a lot more than the folks on 95 did. But it's incumbent upon us, the folks in Richmond, your representatives, to sit down with you and fix this hand in hand with your ideas. They're your ideas. You need fair representation. And I'm here to help you. Thank you.
I'm going to answer this about 4 different ways. A little bit, I think Dave would call it like a geeky answer. First of all, we need to reform the existing system. There's a couple problems with the hot lanes the way they currently work. Number one, unlike Maryland, Virginia taxpayers don't get a discount on their tolls. In Maryland, there's a monthly fee you pay for your Easy Pass, and if you use the hot lanes, if you use their tolls 3 times a month, and you're a Maryland taxpayer, then you don't pay that monthly fee. We need the same thing in Virginia. There's a Virginia taxpayer investment that's already in that infrastructure, and there's no reason Virginians should pay the same rates as everybody else from out of state that didn't pay the same amount of money going in. We need to make that reform. Number one. Number two, the way we collect the tolls is crazy. Right now, if you run up a toll balance of like $200, you might get sued by Transurban for $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 for just a couple $100s of tolls. That's completely insane. It's crazy, and I don't think that's what the people that passed the law really intended when they passed it. And I think that needs to be reformed. It needs to be changed immediately. And so, provided we make those changes, we need to. I think these things are going to continue. Now, the reason they're going to continue is because when we looked at the transportation bill that Senator Barker mentioned that Dave Albo negotiated, the state of Virginia said we had a $120 billion deficit, construction deficit over the next 20 years. $120 billion. The bill we passed raised $20 billion. Where are we going to find that other $100 billion? The answer is tolls. That's the only solution we have unless we raise taxes. And that's why you're seeing all these toll projects. And so I think toll roads are going to be here to stay unless we raise taxes. Taxpayers are going to have to make their choice. Now, in terms of whether the big choice on I-66 is whether the state's going to do it or whether we're going to let Transurban do it. Right now, I'm kind of liking Transurban. The reason for that is because if they build it and if it goes over budget, then it's their problem. If the Virginia taxpayers build it, it goes over budget, it's our problem, and that means Route 1 gets pushed back 10 years. And so I want to see Route 1 happen faster, and that's why I'm in favor of doing it that way.
Sorry. There's been a lot of talk about title lenders.
What position we have, by the way? How many, may I ask how many more positions we have?
We're going to wrap it up. Wrap it up at 9 o'clock, so this will be real quick. There's a lot of car title lenders, Title Max. You've been seeing them kind of in the southern area of Route 1. We have so far been slightly exempt from it. Are these institutions a problem, and how will you address them? This is
20
for-
seconds.
9
o'clock, It's 9 o'clock somewhere.
For you and Mr. Corbett.
9 seconds. Fair is fair.
Getting testy.
Listen, predatory lending, car title lending is a huge problem. As I said earlier, there's now 21 of them up and down Route 1. Just so y'all understand what these guys do. These are not new cars. These are people getting loans on existing cars. These are people that can't pass credit checks. There's no credit check. You walk in there with your car title, you turn it over, give you cash on the spot. Average loan is $1,000, $1,000 loan. The interest rate on those loans is 30% per month. What that comes out to per year is 264%. 1 out of 4 of these loans fails in the first 60 days. 19,000 cars got repossessed in Virginia last year. This is an industry that did not exist 6 years ago. These guys are predators. They go after people who are, they do go after the military. They do.
Yes.
They do. They also go after non-native speakers. They also go after low-income families. They go after the people, the victims that we've seen are people that have big health problems, people that have limited mental capacity, or people that are just in extreme financial distress. I met a woman who said she lost her job, thought she could get one, take care of it. She thought she'd get a job in a month, be able to take care of it, didn't, lost her car. What we need to do is, number one, prohibit co-location. What these guys have done is they've created separate companies, licensed as consumer finance companies, put them in the same storefront, and instead of giving people a car title loan, they give a consumer finance loan for longer term, more amount of money, bigger interest rate, and they can still take their car without any of the consumer protections. They are evading all the restrictions that were put into the law when it was passed 6 years ago. Number one. Number two, we need to give the Board of Supervisors the ability to limit the number that can locate in a certain area. Number three, we need to limit, I think we need to limit how many of them can locate near a casino, because there's a casino coming. And I think we're going to see an explosion of car titling on Route 1 when they open that casino up in Maryland. Those are some of the most basic things we do. I'm glad to see the Board of Supervisors is finally taking action to limit them so we won't get one down here in Lorton Plaza. Because when this Board of Supervisors ordinance passes, they will not be able to locate one there. Hopefully one won't show up before then.
Thanks. Sorry. Predatory lending. All right. This is Delegate Serval's Billy Whack. I know about predatory lending, but how am I supposed to follow that song and dance other than he looks real good when he talks? All right. When we started this campaign, Delegate Serval was saying that the military, they're not protected. Well, that's hogwash. Soldier-Sailor Act covers the military. So if we're going to talk to military, let's talk to military. And I've heard you talk to military before about illegal aliens joining, and that's just not right either. You can get your citizenship through the military. So let's leave the military off the table. They're protected by Soldier-Sailor Act. The next thing I heard just now was, let's talk to the counties. The counties are going to be the ones that clean this up. The state can clean it up. They had a chance to clean it up. And if Delegate Serval could clean this up for the past 5 years, he would have done it. Now he's saying, elect me a senator, I can clean this up. 100 people to work with, 99 to work with. The legislatures, they could limit the loans and how much they're charging. So now it's up to the counties. I think what he said was absolutely right. The counties set the zoning. The counties set the ordinances. The counties structure where these businesses are located and where they're not. So the counties are going to clean this up. And yeah, They're going to have to take the lead now. Why? Because someone made it an election platform. If you want to talk about predators, and you want to talk about stuff that's hurting the environment, and you want to talk about something that's really costing just as much as predatory lending, let's talk our waterways, sediment control. Let's talk about siltation, hydrilla infestation. Your boaters and your marinas, they're having a hard time. There's something that we want to talk about, protecting our green space. That's just as important to the economy and just as important to our environment as predatory lending. So pick that up, press. Next time we have a debate, let's talk about that. I don't want to talk about cleaning up waterways, and the way to do that under Delegate Serval is let's charge for plastic bags, and let's find the guys with shopping carts, and let's fine them. There's no plan there. Predatory lending, your local government will take care of it. Your business owners will take care of it. That's what we do as mayors. That's what we do as supervisors. Thank you.
Well, like Dan, I also want to thank the South County Federation for hosting this tonight. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight at the cool debate. Unlike the other one on TV. Everybody's probably at home recording, but in any event, thank you for coming and your attention tonight. You know, my grandparents moved to this county back when it had 40,000 people in 1935. They moved to this little dirt road you might have heard of called Gallows Road. 1941, they moved down to Mount Vernon. And the reason they moved to Mount Vernon is they were looking for a good quality of life where they could raise their family, their growing family at the time. I was born back in 1971. Went to Talksmont Preschool. My grandparents founded Holland Hall Elementary, Waynewood Elementary, Stephen Foster Intermediate, West Potomac High School. I went to James Madison University, went to law school at UVA, came home, got married, wife got pregnant. We moved back down here, back down to my community, the Mount Vernon part of Fairfax County. And I thought we could do better. That's why I got involved in politics. That's why I started getting more involved. I thought we could do better for our community, make it a place that my children could come back to. And after I got elected, I sat down with Senator Poehler. Actually, the first thing I did was I took a tour of Route 1 with VDOT, and I said, what can I do to improve VDOT? They said, you need to do a study. I went to Toddy. I said, Toddy, we need to do a study. We put in our study bill. Not a single Fairfax County lobbyist showed up in the committee to try and get our bill through. I didn't like that. I got back that summer, and I saw the County Board of Supervisors was investing $800 million in Tyson's Corner. I didn't like that. Toddy didn't like that. And Toddy and I, the two of us together, not just me, wrote a column saying we needed change. You know what happened after that column at the Washington Post? We finally started to see movement. We started to see more attention to this part of the county from the rest of the county. Not Jerry Highland, not Jeff McKay, but the rest of the county. We started to see change. We got that study done. We just got $18 million in January invested. It's going to bring preliminary engineering to start to bring more transit down Route 1. The one thing I can promise you folks is I'm a fighter. I don't care what the Chamber of Commerce says. I don't care what their endorsement is. I've been endorsed by 11% of the electorate. I won by 11% in my first race, 20% in my second, 40% in my third. The endorsement of you all is the one that matters. And I get out there and I fight for my constituents. I'm proud of that, and I'll fight for you if you elect me. And I ask for your vote on November the 3rd. Thank you.
I think voters are tired of partisan politics. It's shut down Washington, D.C., and it's shut down Richmond to some extent. My opponent has sat there and said, and he's advocated, let's start a strike force to fix Route 1. All Democrats rally. We're not going to fix anything that way. No one party has a solution. If you're a Democrat, be proud. If you're a Republican, be proud. I know I am. But I've learned as mayor, we fix things in a nonpartisan manner. We roll up our sleeves and we get it done. What you heard tonight was lowering taxes, that's so 90. That's what he said. Lowering taxes, that's so 90. Wow. My taxes, I pay them at the town, the county, the state, and the federal level. My taxes are important to me. I want to make sure they're spent the right way. A fighter? A fighter? I don't think so. I fought as a Marine to defend your rights in this country and everything it stands for. I fought as a councilman. I fought as a mayor, and I've been reelected. Partisan politics and statistics, Dumfries, 70% Democrat. I've won the last 2 elections for mayor with over 60% of the vote. So let's talk about fighting and partisan. While he's sitting in high school and college, I'm out there making things happen. That's the way you do it. If I sound like I'm tenacious tonight, I've been pushed around for the last few forums, and I've watched his statistics, and I've listened to what he said. Look at the websites. See how people vote. That's what it's all about. I represent you. I work hard for you. My mayor's door is always open. My house is open to you. Come on up. grab a six-pack of beer, grab a six-pack of soda, sit on my front porch, come on inside my house. That's how we fix things as mayor. That's how we do things in local government. Don't talk to me about how you want to change things when part of the things we need to change is you. This is what this election's all about. It's representing you. I need your vote. I'll fight for you. I've proven I'll fight for you. That's what this election's all about. Change. Thank you very much.